Welcome back to the One Question Leadership Podcast. I'm Glenn Caruso, head football coach at the University of St. Thomas, and so happy you tuned in. You know, quite often we get so caught up in the daily grind of work or coaching or recruiting that we don't often take time to reflect. I would encourage everybody to take just a few minutes each day to try and see the bigger picture, to stop and realize that in the end, we're going to be judged on what we choose to believe, who we choose to love, and what we decide to leave behind in the hearts and minds of not just our players, not just our coworkers, but also our children. And remember, if we're doing it right, we're coaching football for life.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Leanne Ulmer. Coach Ulmer is the head volleyball coach at Carthage College. Greetings, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, Coach, you've been the head coach there almost 25 years, around 23, I believe, at Carthage. You have over 600 wins, which is a significant accomplishment. You've been coaching for roughly 25 years, and your son is the head volleyball coach at Oregon. So all those things are excellent.
He is. Yeah, I've been very blessed to have a long coaching career. I started in high school, coming right out of college, coaching different sports, and then kind of settled. I did softball, basketball, settled into volleyball. I was fortunate enough to play on a national championship volleyball team at UC Riverside with the great longtime coach Sue Gazansky there. So she was a good mentor for me. And I settled into volleyball. And then I was at a big high school where Matt and my daughter Devin went to school. And I got the call that Carthage was looking for a coach. Hadn't really thought about that, but decided to make that move and never look back. It's been a great move for me.
Yeah, excellent. Why did you settle on volleyball back in when you came?
I like the season, with the kids being, I like the sport a lot. It was a sport that I kind of came into late. I always was more of a basketball player and a softball player, but played tennis in high school. So volleyball came along late. We had a lot of success at Riverside. I like the season. I like being in the fall. I enjoyed the fast pace of the game. I liked having the gym time to ourselves, some selfish reasons. And then when the kids were little, I did it for a while, then I stopped. And when the kids got older, I got back into it. So I just felt like I had a pretty good grasp on that sport. It was a fun sport to coach, and I just enjoyed it.
Yeah. So 25 years or 23 years to be specific at Carthage College is a long time at an institution. You do see that more in certain sports. You see it a lot in Division III. You talk about Division III, Division II.
Correct. Yeah.
There's an aspect of being somewhere so long where you become, for the lack of a better word, an institution yourself, right? You become a part of the fabric of the institution. True. And when you talk about changes, whether it be president, athletic director, whether it be other head coaches, assistant coaches, and those types of things, you talk about having someone there that they can lean on to focus on leadership, or even pick the brain of, pick your brain on, dealing with players or dealing with situations either at the school or in their specific program. I wonder, have people come to you over the years in terms of a mentor role?
I had the good fortune. Dr. Bob Bond was our AD for a long time, most of my career so far. And he retired a while back and unfortunately has passed away. But so I was lucky to work with Bob for, 18 or 19 years of my time there. And I was also the senior women administrator. So I got to coach and be on the administrative side, which was really cool for me, to kind of see both sides of that. So, I learned a lot from him. And then, I think now that we're on our third AD since he left. Wow. So that's been a completely different situation and unsettling for sure for all of us. Great people. Everybody left for different reasons. That wasn't anything institutional. Some of it was personal, or some other job opportunities came up. But I think we're settled in now. But I think that was a really interesting time, and I think some people leaned on the older coaches. At that time we were really blessed at Carthage to have a handful of coaches that had been there, for a good amount of time. And I think it was probably unsettling for the younger coaches, and just change, right? It's always hard, change for people in general. So I think the administration, our president, vice president, as they went through some of the searches, I was on, many of those committees as we kind of went through that. I always try to help the younger coaches where needed. I mean, they're so smart, and they're so sharp. Like Matt wouldn't need a lot of my help. These young coaches are really are talented. But I think, yeah, just seeing that somebody's been there that long. Because when I came, I had no idea. I was a high school coach. I had no idea how long I was going to be at Carthage, if I was going to be any good at it. So, the fact that the school has allowed me to stay there that long, and the infrastructure is such that you can be successful there, I think is encouraging for the younger coaches.
Do you think, I don't even know if this question is answerable, but do you think this is your fourth AD now, right? You said three have come.
Correct. Yep. Correct.
Do you think the nature of the three ADs that have come and go, or the two and then the one you have now that have come and go, is that the nature of the business? Are people coming and then taking other jobs, or people coming in and then retiring? Like, what do you think it is? Is there something about Carthage, or what do you? I mean,
yeah. I think the fact that we had so often when you've had from somebody for so long, this happens where you'll have a little bit of turnover after, because there's so many things in place that he had in place.
Okay.
And I think sometimes it's harder for the next person to follow a really successful person.
Right.
And so, every person's reason was different. I think, the school was looking for a little bit of change. And I think our administration had reasons why. Right then we were going through some budget changes, and they wanted to do things a little bit differently. So I think sometimes people come in, make those changes, but maybe they're not your long-term person. They come in, make the changes. I don't think you think they're going to leave, but sometimes they do. And then the second AD, he had been an AD before, but he got a great opportunity in the finance just to make more money.
Oh yeah.
Just to make more money. And his old school came after him in a different, in giving, and he decided to make that change. And let's face it, being an AD, the hours are hard. You're away from your family. They had young kids. And so now our recent AD is from the area. So I think he has young children, but I don't think he's going to be jumping to the next thing, and I think our administration, here's a good administration learning thing. We're on our third AD since Dr. Bond left. How many more? We can't just keep doing this.
Right, at some point. Yeah.
I mean, you can, but it's not good. It's not good for the students. It's not good for the school. So I think they're going to do everything in their power to make this work. And, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's perks, sometimes it's just, other things, quality of life, hiring help for him or her, hiring assistant ADs, that kind of thing. So you're not burning the candle at both ends. And there's a lot of pressure. There's the financial pressures and, that they go through. We have a big department. We have 27 sports. So big department, a lot of coaches, a lot of staff.
Yeah. You mentioned you did a stint as the SWA. And
I was that for a long time. Yeah.
And what made you give that up? Did you feel like, okay, I've done enough admin? Or
when we had a female AD that came in after Dr. Bond, and so I think she hired a female assistant, and it just made sense for her.
It makes sense. Yeah,
for her to take that spot. And then since then, like our president AD asked if I wanted to be involved in that, and we have some younger coaches who I just think I've had that opportunity, and I really loved it. I really loved being part of it, but I think Beth, who's doing it right now, our swim coach, has designs on maybe being an athletic director. So I need to just be unselfish about that and let other people have the opportunity that I have to kind of grow their career.
Yeah, that makes sense. What were a couple of takeaways you took from that time in terms of understanding administration on a college campus?
Yeah, it's hard, right? There's a lot of layers that go on there, and I think as it made me be more understanding of what our leader goes through, of what it's like. It's, they're fighting for us all the time. You have to pick your battles, right? There's never enough money. There's never enough help. Everybody wants assistant coaches. We have GAs. There's just a lot of battles. So they have to go raise money. You have to make sure the student athletes are, you do hiring. And what I take away most, I guess, from the whole thing, if you hire the right people, your job's a lot easier. So if you don't, then there's a lot of upset all the time. So I think that was the number one thing. You try to hire people. You don't always know how long people are going to last, but I think if you have a good infrastructure around them and you support them, they'll stay. If money's the issue, Division III is probably not going to keep you. We don't make the kind of money that they do at Division I, but most people don't come to Division III just for the money. So we have a lot of male coaches whose wives work, and sometimes that helps keep them here. It's just not for the money. Our coaches often do other things. Like I coach club a lot in the beginning when I first got to Carthage. So you wear a lot of hats at a school like ours. So I think we're very enrollment driven, unlike what my son is doing at Oregon. We are very enrollment driven at Division III. So, I have almost 30 kids in my volleyball program,
Wow.
Anywhere from 25 to 30. So that's a lot to manage with a small staff. But that's the nature of the beast. So if you don't if you don't like it, it's probably not the place for you. So part of our job, and part of the administration's job is to help the coaches understand that and support them as best you can.
Now, your assistants, you have graduate assistants, or you have full-time assistants?
Correct.
You have graduate
Correct.
assistants.
Graduate
Okay.
assistants. Yeah.
And how many of those do you have?
Just one.
Just one?
Just one GA, and that's a 2-year stint.
Okay.
We have different so it's great because they're young and enthusiastic, but the bummer is they're gone after 2 years.
After 2 years,
My most recent GA got the head job at Kalamazoo, so she didn't even make it through the whole 2 years.
Wow.
She got hired right at the first of the year, which is super excited for her. And then I was fortunate to have an assistant coach that got married, lived in the area. She helped out, and she was great. And then she got pregnant. She's going to have a family, so she's decided to stay home with her child. So once in a while, you get lucky, and you find somebody who's willing to put in that time, kind of on a part-time basis, to help. But it's usually just me and a GA. So it's kind of crazy when you look back.
Yeah.
When you look back at it, to think all that's been accomplished, and with fairly small staff, and so it's been cool.
So to me, there's something interesting about that, because you're talking about 30 personalities, right? And you and a graduate assistant, all right? Or you and, if you get a part-time person, or this graduate assistant leaves, right? And you got to have the next graduate assistant.
Right.
So there's an aspect of leadership which, in my mind, includes assessing the people you lead, right? And also allowing them to assess you.
Right.
I imagine you lean hard on veteran leadership, right? To manage 30 people and to lead a team. Tell me about that in terms of assessing and then helping people get in positions where now they're also doing part of the leading on your team, and that aspect of what you do.
I think I think you're spot on. I mean, right now, for instance, I'm pretty much on my own.
Okay.
I was fortunate to pick up one of our swim GAs, also a volleyball guy, and he's helping out in the spring, and he's going to help a little in the fall. He's awesome. But it's me mostly, and then him sometimes. So, I need them. I need our older kids to help out, and they're amazing. They do a great job, and it's really good for them. I've kind of gone away from captains and gone more to a leadership council.
Okay.
So I have a few. I think we have like 3 seniors and then a couple juniors and three juniors, sophomore, and freshman. So we get some feedback from all the different levels. I get help from all of them, and I also have a manager, and he's helping out. He can hit some balls in, chip balls in, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But more than ever now, which is kind of fun for me, sometimes watch what you wish for, right? You get a lot of staff, and you manage your staff, and that can go well or cannot go well depending on how things go. So sometimes it's been great having my staff. This is kind of a good time for me, once again, to reinvent myself, which you have to do all the time in this business, and connect with my team in a different way now, because it's just me. They only have me pretty much to go to. And so me to get to know them more, to count on my older players, and they've been great. We just had a player in the office the other day that's been struggling, and they came in, and we kind of had a little bit of an intervention and worked with her, and they were awesome. I'm always so impressed with them when the chips are down and their teammates need them. Just how much knowledge they have and how much compassion and support for their teammates. So it always reinvigorates me and re-energizes me when I see the kind of people that they are. And you have to pick the right ones. Obviously you have to kind of vet that out and find the ones that you think will be helpful. And so it's been really good for them, and it's really good for me. And I count, if the locker room is not good, we're not going to be okay.
Okay.
And I've had that experience where the locker room was not good, and we woefully underachieved, because there was just too much going on in there. So you do count on those kids, because I'm not in there. You do count on those players to control that and to tamp down and talk to me if things are not going well. If there's something we need to address.
Tell me about,
if that doesn't happen, then we're in trouble.
Tell me about one of those years, right, where the locker room wasn't exactly where it needed to be, and you.
That was rough. Yeah, that was not real fun. And I thought, here we have. I think that might have been. It was right after the COVID year, so it would have been 21, and we had gone to the Final Four in 2019. 2020 looked really promising that season in the fall, and we didn't get that. Obviously, or whatever, 21, I guess it was after COVID hit, but we got to play a little bit, and that year was fine. And then the next year, so now pretty much there was some stuff that went on that made me decide, so it was rough. So we had that year, and I had players who we made it to the conference championship in the tournament, and I had players that didn't want to play. They didn't tell me that, but that was going on behind the scenes. So we had a lot of things going on that year where I had a lot of conversations. We had a lot of talks, a lot of team talk, trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on, why I have a JV court, and they're having a great time over there. They're having a fun time. We're over here just kind of miserable because we're just not. Our chemistry is not good. The balance. Sometimes that happens, right? You think we have the talent, and part of it was the older girls at that point just weren't great leaders. It's not their fault.
Okay.
It's just they just weren't. And so we weren't able to do what I had talked about before. So the locker room was very negative, and so when you have that happening, that's not good.
Could you see, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah.
The women who became the seniors and weren't great leaders, well, the 2 or 3 years in the COVID probably affected everybody in the history of the universe.
Everybody,
but
sure.
But I wonder, could you see that coming 3 years before? Right.
A little. Well, yeah, I think it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to know that because you don't know who else is coming in. Sometimes the younger kids can be great leaders, juniors, that class. But
I just mean, as they were freshmen and sophomore and juniors, could you see that this person isn't developing as?
There's definitely years where you're thinking, man, I'm going to miss those other kids because they really, even if they didn't play all the time, that they could hold it together.
Yeah.
That they kept. And then sometimes, like I said, it's not anybody's fault. Sometimes kids, that's just not their role.
Yeah, they just don't develop
it's just not the role they want to play.
Yeah.
So then coaches have to step in more, to do that and try to kind of help people through that. So, but the one place we can't be is in the locker room.
Right.
And if they're not communicating a lot of that to me, and I think by the time they told me some of the things that were going on, some water was under the bridge, and at that point. And we held it together and obviously still had a winning season and we got there. But at the end of that season, I made the decision to move away from some kids for the future.
Wow.
And it was really hard. It's really hard to tell some kids that you think they shouldn't return.
Wow.
And it's not about what they're doing on the court, but it's just not been good for our team. And as a coach, you take a lot of heat for that, and I might not have done it the best way. I don't know that you're ever totally prepared.
Yeah.
For all that, and maybe you don't have all your ducks in a row. But looking back, it was the right thing to do. But in the moment, it was brutal and it was hard, and it's hard for me to see my players feeling like they don't want to play the game because it's not fun anymore. Because they spend all the time with their teammates. Those are the people that mean the most to them. The coaches are fine, but it's their players that they're playing with. And if they're feeling under attack or if they're feeling not supported there, then they just want to move on. So, sometimes you just have to look really hard at what you're doing and make some changes that are really hard to do. And fortunately for me, my administration backed me up because there was definitely some kerfluffle from all that. There were some feathers flying. And I never feel good about that because I always err on the side of the kids.
Yeah.
I always want to give them a chance, even when they make mistakes, to come back. I think we're doing a better job now with the Leadership Council of cutting things off before they get too far. And sometimes you have to make decisions even sooner, with some kids about if it's not working well if they're not working well within the team. And if you can't save everybody, right? You can't salvage everything, that you need to make the best decision for the whole group.
Is that something that has happened, 23 years at Carthage? And has that happened, not often, but has it happened multiple times, I guess, where you had to make a decision about some kids?
Often. Yeah. It has, which has been great.
Yeah.
That's one reason, because those are the years you're like, man,
right.
Is this what I should be doing? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
That was rough, but I think you grow, if you don't wither up and die, you grow from those things. You own your part of it. Where can you get better? The thing that I love about this job that always also makes it very difficult is we're dealing with people. These are people. They're not widgets. They're not, nuts and bolts. These are people, and nothing stays the same ever. There's always something new going on. And so I think that's what makes it really exciting in those relationships, and helping the kids lead and teaching them how to handle disappointment. Each generation, as they get more and more opportunities for women, this has been amazing. Look at the time we're in for women's sports.
Right.
All these girls are getting a chance to play all the time. So then they just expect to play all the time. Well, that doesn't always work out for you. You might be on the bench. And for some people and their parents, it's really difficult. And so those are usually where the problems come from, is
Okay.
lack of playing time, or, and you have a bigger roster. That's also a challenge. So at Matt's level, at the Division I level, they'll just transfer,
Yeah.
if that's not working out. But our level, that you don't see a ton of that.
My brain is a little stimulated on this. I'll ask one more question along that line.
Sure.
Is there a long runway in assessing where the problem is in that, like recent years after the pandemic?
Yeah.
Is there a, you think first, as a good leader first, okay, am I the problem first? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
right.
and you start thinking, okay, is something we're doing? Are we coaching it or letting it happen? Okay, now let's look at the players. Is there something happening with, tell me about the assessment that, the process of assessing where the actual problem is. And then how long does it take for you to decide, okay, this person, we're going to have to make a change? Because that seems like
I think you're right. You have to always look at yourself first.
Right.
What am I allowing? If something's happening in my gym, I'm allowing
right.
it, right? That always is part of it. And then beyond that, if it becomes a playing issue, and then they're being mean because they're not playing, they're not talking to teammates properly. They're not, the chatter that's going on, the body language on the bench, all that kind of internal stuff, the making their other teammates feel bad because they are playing and they're not, and all that kind of stuff. So you're trying to. So I had a meeting halfway through that season, kind of calling that out, because one of my players was just a mess.
Yeah. She
was a mess because she was feeling attacked by some of her teammates. So, at first they didn't want to own up to it, but eventually they did. Mm-hmm. And so I kept them on the team, and we moved forward. Well, I don't think it got a ton better. I think it got better for a little bit, but ultimately
habits were
that
there.
Die was cast. Yep. Yeah. And unfortunately, and everybody's raised different. Some people can talk crap and talk behind people's backs, and that's just how they think you're supposed to operate. Other people are very sensitive, and that's just not going to fly. So that's kind of what got that whole ball rolling like that. And eventually there's no other way to fix it but to kind of cut it out. That was my final decision to make, as difficult as that was. And so moving forward since then, we haven't dealt with the same issue, so. And, hopefully, I know it was really hard for the players involved. I have talked to, one of them since, and she's doing well. And I think sometimes when they look back, if you're honest with yourself and own your part in, not being you need to be a good teammate. Ultimately, if I don't have kids that are great teammates, then what are we doing? If you're not playing, you're not being a great teammate, or even if you are coming off the bench, and then it's, sometimes I hang on too long to those kids, especially if they're playing. You might hang, and then you find out they're not a great teammate. This is not good for our chemistry. This is not good moving forward. So sometimes you have to make those moves, and they're really hard in a program. So, so you learn from all that. And, I never want to let the kids down. But the thing I always remember is I have to be for the whole, for the group, the whole team, not just for not for one particular person. And I will take a lot. I will take a lot on myself. I will just really, really suck it all. I'll let them come at me for a long time before I, have to let something go. So I give them a long runway.
Yeah, I imagine the hanging on too long, giving them a long runway. It's to the coach's heart, right? You want to make sure you brought the kid in. You want to make sure,
right? You want them to leave. You want this to work.
Yeah.
You want to try to help them through these. How to be a good teammate, how to be a good coworker. Ultimately, they're going to leave us and they're going to go into the workplace, and that's not going to fly there. They're not going to last very long.
Right.
So, you want to try to help them with all those life lessons, that you get, and for the other girls too, that you have to. Conflict resolution is a really, really hard thing.
Yeah. For
my generation, for this generation, to be face to face with somebody and to be able to not attack them, but to tell them what you're feeling and tell them, how that's impacting you, and to try to come to some kind of resolution is really, really hard. Most people would rather just tell somebody else or just run from it. And ultimately with the kids, though, it'll show up in some kind of a mental or physical issue for them. That if you feel like you're being bullied, or if you feel like, those kind of things are going on. So yes, as a coach, you want to try to help the one who's feeling that and the one who's doing that, and try to move things forward. So it's not so different from administration. If you hire right, if you get the right kids, if you work through these things, then things are going to go better.
So I guess in an ideal world, 23 years, you would have had 12 graduate assistants, right, over those years, 2 years, ideally, in a perfect world.
Sure.
But I imagine you had a few over the years, and I wonder, are any of them have any former players gone on, become a graduate assistant with you and then gone on to coach, or are they always people?
We had, for a while, almost all my GAs were former players.
Yeah.
And yes, I've had some go on and coach, which has been great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them coach club. A lot of them still play, which I love. I love the fact that a lot of my players still play in adult leagues. I see pictures of them all together. That does my heart good to know that they still love volleyball. They're still out there, rallying up their old teammates, and from different years, and they're playing together. So and I think I've had some GAs that coaching wasn't their passion, but they wanted to get a master's degree, and I liked them as they were going to help in this space. So if you can find the ones who want to coach, that's better, the best, right? Because then they're going to be there and they're really invested in the whole process. So the one I have coming in this next year played for a competitor in the conference, and she's a great kid, and she wants to be a coach, and she's super excited. And it's great for me. I mean, being my age, having done this for a long time, being an older coach, it's great to have a younger presence there to can relate to the kids, and I try to stay relevant like that. But I'm still older, and there's some things I'm not gonna know as well. But so to have them and get their feedback, and for the girls to be able to, I always want the players to feel like they can come talk to me. But I get it. Sometimes you want to talk to somebody who's a little bit younger or closer in age.
I understand that.
So
did Matt? Was he a graduate assistant with you, your son?
He wasn't technically a grad assistant, but he always coached with me.
Okay.
And we had him when I started at Carthage. I started the men's program, and so we started as a club. And then when Matt came in, I did not coach Matt. I don't think I coached Matt. I had I moved on. My assistant at the time, who was helping me with the club, he took over as the varsity coach there, and so Matt played for him. But Matt was always helping.
Mm-hmm.
He's always on the sideline, and he helped. He was the manager of for the high school teams, and he helped with the college team. So he wasn't formally a GA, but he was always there, and he was great. So his coaching passion started young. It started when I was at the high school. You could tell. And he was just a little guy. Now he's a big guy. He was just a little guy in high school, so he had a little bit of that little man syndrome going on.
He mentioned that. He mentioned that he went to college and he wanted to be an agent, and sat down in, I don't know if it was a law class, and in the first 5 minutes got up and went to the college advisor like, I'm trying to coach. I don't know what all this other stuff is.
So he was going to go, out to UCLA and do all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And he ended up at Carthage. Mm-hmm. And so I think he pretty quickly figured out that coaching really was his passion. And there's no question he's right where he's supposed to be. He could be an agent. He could be the president of the United States. He could be a lot of things. But right now, I think he's right where God meant for him to be. He's coaching, and he's great at it. And, I pick his brain all the time. We were just in Indy recruiting together, mm-hmm. which is fun when that opportunity comes up that we can be in the same place. And it's fun to go watch his courts a little bit. We're not watching the same courts, obviously with the same kids, but it's kind of fun to see, where his career has gone and where he's at. And it's fun to kind of see those kids at that level. And then he comes and hangs out with me a little bit. He's great.
Yeah. One thing he mentioned, I said, hey, so do you, your mom is a veteran coach, long time in the game. Do you pick her brain for wisdom in terms of being a head coach? He said maybe early on, but now we kind of just pick each other's brain and trade ideas and stuff like that. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. I think when he first, Matt's a smart guy. He's had some great mentors. Brian Gimolaro at Long Beach State, Hall of Fame coach, and when he got to Oregon, that was he became an interim head coach, and that was a very interesting time. So I remember lots of conversations with him there of getting through that type of a situation. But the players loved him and always wanted him to be their coach. And I think so that part was smooth. But I think, dealing with administrations and dealing with some of the stuff that comes down the pike at you that you can only experience when you experience, like some of the stuff I was talking about. before those difficult situations that come up. But Matt is a very ethical guy. He's one of the best, and everybody knows that about him. And if he has rules and he has the way things are supposed to be, that's how they're going to be. And he sticks to his guns, even if it means a loss for his team.
Yeah.
He will stick by what's important, and I think people appreciate that.
Yeah, it's got to be exciting to have your son in the game. And
oh, it is. I get more nervous for him, I think. And see me, I'm always the crazy one on the sidelines.
That's hilarious.
My daughter and our family's there, and it's a lot of fun.
I'll ask a couple questions and then we'll wrap. Relationships with coaches is important, when you're a head coach on a campus. And recently Carthage hired a new football coach, and football is so critical, really depending on how the school is set up. But you 5 to 6 times a year, there's so many people in the stands, and nothing else on campus brings that many people at one time, right? And you think about how important that is. So I wonder about your relationship with the football coach, and just the relationship with football and with other sports in general that you have.
Yeah. I was on the search committee for Coach Pop, and he's a younger coach. Love him. I think he's going to do a great job for us. So it was fun to be part of that. Fun to be in that realm, talk football a little bit. I love sports. I love all sports. I watch football. I don't know always all the jargon and all the details, but I'm a pretty good sports fan. And he has a great passion and a great wisdom for the sport. He's been mentored well. He's coached. He was just, his energy is infectious. I see him recruiting. I see the nice part I love about him is a lot of times coaches, especially maybe on the football side, they're in a different part of our building where their offices are. So you have to make an effort to kind of interact with the other side of our building. And so it's really cool that he's around a lot. I talk to him a lot, just checking in with him. How's it going? We had there was a recruit the other day that happens to be a cousin of mine. And, I'd say, hey, I know them, and how'd it go? And, get some feedback. So it's been great to see. He's very personable. He's out a lot. I think a little bit different personality than the previous coach. Mm-hmm. And at Carthage, we've not been great at football. When I first got there, we made, I think, maybe the Elite Eight, but it's been, 500. We're middle of the pack kind of thing. So hoping that we can get a more positive turn on this. I know they're working really hard. You see how hard those guys work for the number. We have, 150 football players at a school like Carthage. It's a huge, huge amount of students. So he has, he's been hiring staff, watching him go through that process, and certainly not easy. A lot of people, you thought you were going to get them, then something else came up. So you kind of watch a whole staff come together. Takes a lot of resources, takes a lot of energy. So I'm hoping this is a great hire. I know he's going to do his very best, to turn our program around and get it going in the right direction. And I always make it a point to kind of know how I love sports. So I watch our basketball games. I watch, I check in with the baseball and softball coaches. A lot of the track coaches, I'm really impressed with a lot of the stuff they do. So I try to just be friendly, check in. Hey, great win. Nice job. We have lacrosse. I love all that stuff. I love being part of all that. That's the best part of the job to me. If we had to work from home, it would be a bummer, because I love going to work. I love going to work. And I think, unlike Matt, maybe more even in division, because I ask him, how much do you see Coach Lanning? How much do you see the basketball coaches? And obviously he sees the basketball coaches quite a bit. Like, he knew the kid. He knows all those kids because they're in the gym. They're in his girls know a lot of those players. So he loves that part of it too. And I think Matt and I are very similar on that part, that we just love the whole atmosphere, being part of the whole thing. We're all sports fans in general. So, Matt's like the mayor. You want to be in on. I like being in on all of it. I like checking in on the coaches, and even if they're having a tough time, just, hey, how you doing? You're doing a great job. You're doing the right things. It's gonna get better. And that kind of thing. So with some of the younger ones, as you're kind of fighting through a slump, or taking over a program that you need to turn around. So I've been there. We weren't good when I got to Carthage. So I've been there. I know about, turning programs around, and, we're all about wins and losses. That's always important for us as coaches, but it's more about the players, the kids, their experience, and, how all that goes.
Yeah. I imagine that makes being an avid sports fan makes being a coach fun, because you can go support all the other coaches and players in other sports.
And I'm a golfer. I love to golf. And so, go out and play golf with some of the coaches and be part of that or golf outing. And yeah, so I think, it's the thing, you want all the ships to rise. If our football program gets better, our basketball teams do well, baseball, track, the more kids, we have a great men's volleyball program.
Right.
As all the ships rise, it's just better for Carthage. It's better for our program. I think everybody can win at Carthage. You just have to work hard. You have to work hard, get the right kids. It's always about recruiting. It's always about
in the
recruiting.
end, right? Yeah.
So
Which
in
is
the
excellent.
end so every coach that you interview, that better be a big part of
what they do.
Of what they're
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and it's challenging here because we don't give any scholarships. They're going to pay, $20,000 to come to Carthage,
which is crazy.
Which is fun.
Well, Coach, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, ma'am. That was Coach Leanne Ulmer. She is the head volleyball coach at Carthage College. And of course, I am Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.